Hello and welcome to FPL Mate, your best mate for fantasy Premier League content for the 2023-24 season. My name is Dan, and you may have thought I've lost the plot in the title. You may be screaming, no Dan, we cannot build a team without Erling Haaland. Well, by the end of this video, you may well have changed your mind just a little bit, because I've built for you a team today that actually I think is viable, that doesn't include the Norwegian robot. So guys, strap yourself in, like the video if you enjoy this one, and do subscribe if you want more FPL content. Let's have a look and see if we can build a team without that guy. So first of all, why would you want to even try and build a team without Erling Haaland? Well, first of all, it is differential. It is high risk and high reward. If Erling Haaland somehow fails for whatever reason, or if he doesn't get many points, you're going to do very, very well. So because so many people have got Erling Haaland in their team, they're going to be captaining him every single week. If someone else outscores him, or you have a few other players that will outscore him, then you are going to take advantage of that situation. This also allows you to have both Salah and Kane. And believe me, guys, it is really tough to have Salah, Kane and Erling Haaland in one team without basically making the rest of your team look utter trash. But you can afford both Salah and Kane by removing Erling Haaland from your team. So there is a small advantage there. If Erling Haaland gets injured, suspended or rotated, we know what Pep Guardiola is like. He could rotate his team a little bit. Then that is also going to be a huge step in the right direction for you. You're going to be ahead of the game in that regard. And finally, if Erling Haaland flops, you have a huge advantage. Now, I'm not saying that's very likely. In fact, it's pretty unlikely, but I do just want to say that there are some advantages for going without Erling Haaland. You have to sometimes take a huge risk to get an extraordinary rank. You have to make these extraordinary decisions. I'm not saying it's the right play, but there is certainly a world within we can conceive that we actually could do better without Erling Haaland. And let's kind of work out how we're going to do that. So I think if you're taking such a huge risk of going without Erling Haaland, you do have to mitigate that risk, reduce the risk in other areas. So first of all, I would be picking the other high ownership players. So the likes of Bukayo Saka, we've got Pervis Estupinian, maybe Gabriel Jesus. These kind of players are also very highly owned. And if we go too far against the template, then we're not just going to have Erling Haaland to worry about. We're also going to have all of the other super popular players that will also potentially be able to damage you as well. If we take all of these high ownership players out, then suddenly we're going to find ourselves really, really far behind the pack if we go about Haaland and everyone else, and all of these players do very, very well, or even if just some of these players do well, it's going to spell trouble. I would try and pick another Man City attacker, at least one. I feel like, yes, Man City have these phenomenal fixtures, really, really nice fixtures, and we're expecting Man City to score goals in these games. So maybe we can try and get in on the Man City goals, the Erling Haaland goals in other ways, in many ways, and try and just cover Erling Haaland just that little bit. I would try and figure out a transfer plan to buy Erling Haaland back in if you change your mind later. I think that's going to definitely be important. If you're going without him at the start, look, I'm not saying it's a good idea, but if you do, then I feel like you have to at least have a plan to get him back in, whether that means leaving money in the bank or just having like two players that you might be able to remove. For example, if you've got a Harry Kane in your team and a Bruno Fernandez or something like that, then you know that those two players, you can swap Harry Kane for Erling Haaland, and then you can downgrade down to, I don't know, Kaldu Mitoma or something like that, Brian and Bumo, downgrade Fernandez, so you can afford to make up that gap in that price difference, I guess. And I would make sure you have a little bit of money in the bank as well, a little bit extra money spare when making these two transfers, or having that money in the bank from the start, just so you can make sure you can afford to get Erling Haaland in, even if there are some price changes in there as well. And finally, figure out who you will captain instead. And I feel like this is the most important factor of all. One of the huge benefits of spending 14 million on Erling Haaland is the fact that you can captain him every single game week. Now, there are some other options for captaincy, which we are going to go through now, but I feel like you have to have those captainable options in your team that can cover you when you are not going to be captaining Erling Haaland. So let's have a look at them. So here are the alternate captains for Game Week 1 through to Game Week 8, and I really would be trying to plan as far ahead as possible. And it really comes down to three players, and that is Saka, Salah, and Kane. These are your three players who really do look like the guys who can potentially cover Haaland in various game weeks. So in Game Week 1, we've got Erling Haaland against Burnley, but Saka against Nottingham Forest. Maybe Saka can outscore Haaland. In Game Week 2, we've got Salah against Bournemouth, where Haaland plays Newcastle. So actually, Salah in game week 2 looks kind of good. Maybe that could be a good week, an advantageous week where actually the non-Haaland owners might not suffer as much because Haaland has got that difficult fixture. In game week 3, Haaland, yes, he has Sheffield United, but Kane has Bournemouth. In game week 4, Haaland has Fulham, but Kane has Burnley. So Kane, really nice back-to-back fixtures there. In game week 5, we've got Kane again against Sheffield United, where we've got Haaland against West Ham. So again, another game week where maybe Kane could outscore Erling Haaland. The following game week, a little bit more tricky. I think that Haaland is the better captain than Salah against West Ham, but maybe Salah can outscore him. We know Salah gets the extra point for a clean sheet, extra points for goals as well, so you never know, maybe that could pay off there. Game week 7, really, really tough because actually we've got Salah versus Kane in that game week. They play each other, so in that sense, Haaland against Wolves probably looks like the better option, but come game week 8, again, we look pretty good here. So Kane plays against Luton Town, whilst Erling Haaland plays against Arsenal. So game week 8, if you only have Erling Haaland as your one premium player, you could actually find yourself struggling to decide who's going to be your captain, because it's not going to be Erling Haaland against Arsenal necessarily, and you're probably thinking as well, I can't captain the Arsenal players against Man City either. So we will have to look elsewhere, whether that's Liverpool or maybe Manchester United. That's possible, but certainly Harry Kane against Luton looks really, really good in game week 8. So with that said, I want to have a look at one more thing, and that is the predicted points. And I think this is where maybe a lot of this theory goes out the window. Now, this is the Fantasy Football Hub predicted points. This is kind of machine learning predicted points, and I will leave a link to this tool where I've gathered this information in the description, so you guys can check out some of the predicted points that each player is scoring, well, projected to score for the upcoming game weeks. But we can see straight away, guys, that in every single game week, Erling Haaland, no matter what fixture he plays, he still has higher predicted points than my suggested alternate captain, and that is worrying. Even against Arsenal, we've got Erling Haaland 7.4 predicted points versus Kane 6.6 predicted points. So you can see even in the most obvious weeks where it looks like actually going against Haaland could be really good, maybe that's not going to be such a good idea after all. But these are, of course, predictions. We may find that the predictions don't come true. You may think that you know better than the machines, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think you can actually outscore machines and AI if you work hard enough and think hard enough and know enough and understand enough of the context around everything. You can definitely do it. But right now, the AI is saying, well, Erling Haaland is still the best captain in every single game week from 1 to 8. But that's pretty boring, right, guys? If you don't want to play the boring game, if you want to go for something different, there are still these players who are definitely alternate captains that you can go for. Let's build a team and see how it looks. And by the end of this video, you might think, actually, maybe this is doable. Maybe it's okay to go without Erling Haaland. We're going to have a look at some more predicted points and stuff like that at the end of this video, so stay tuned for that. Alright guys, so for this team, we've spent 100 million. We've got nothing in the bank. And let me show you this team that actually works without Erling Haaland, and it actually does work pretty well, I think. First of all, in goal, we've got Flecken, so he is probably going to be the starting goalkeeper for Brentford, assuming that Raya leaves. So definitely someone you can afford to go for as a 4.5 million goalkeeper. Looks like the best choice for me as things currently stand, particularly if Raya leaves the club. So let's see what happens there, but certainly really nice fixtures for Brentford coming up. Fulham, Crystal Palace and Bournemouth. They're going to be some real nice opportunities for some clean sheets. Even that Spurs game, you're probably going to expect some save points as well. So like that as a 4.5 million goalkeeper. We can go to some other 4.5 million goalkeepers if you prefer them, but Flecken is the one for me right now. Into defence, we've got Pervis Estupiñán. Like I say, we've got Erling Haaland as the #1 most popular player in the game. The second most popular is Pervis Estupiñán, and I wouldn't really be looking to bet against some of these other popular guys. So he makes the cut indeed. We've got these amazing fixtures coming up, really attacking fullback here. We're expecting to get a lot of points. We've got Gabriel here next as well, another Arsenal player, as we kind of see in all of these drafts that we make at the moment. Lots of Arsenal players. We're expecting some clean sheets from Arsenal now that they've got Declan Rice in midfield, and Saliba is going to be back as well. You look at these first 3 fixtures and you think clean sheet, clean sheet, clean sheet. That would be very nice. Gabriel also has really, really good attacking numbers. His XG is off the charts. He is the #1 kind of attacking threat from those set pieces for Arsenal, and Arsenal are pretty good from those set pieces as well. So maybe we can get a Gabriel goal or two within these opening fixtures. We're going to finish off with a little bit of a differential defender here, and that is actually going to be Anderson of Crystal Palace. Now, he is a player who is just 0.7% owned, kind of gone under the radar. He's got a decent amount of attacking threat from set pieces, so kind of like Gabriel, you can get the occasional headed goal from him. But we've got some nice fixtures mixed in with some not so nice fixtures. So we've got that Sheffield United game in game week 1. We've got that Wolves game in game week 4. Those two look fantastic, really, really good. Now, the problem is those two fixtures in the middle, Arsenal and Brentford, but don't worry, guys, I have got a plan for that one because there is a player that rotates so well with Anderson, so well with a Crystal Palace defender. Now, if you really want to go for a Mark Gahey or maybe a Tyrick Mitchell instead of Anderson, that's absolutely fine as well, but Anderson, to me, looks like he's got the best attacking numbers of those Crystal Palace defenders, so I'm going to go for him, but he rotates super well with another 4.5 million defender who is going to be on the bench. We'll speak about him very briefly. We've got Mo Salah in midfield, so yeah, no surprise, we've got to go for some of those players who are alternate captains, and Salah is definitely one of those guys. You're probably not going to be captaining him against Chelsea, Newcastle, or maybe even not Aston Villa either, but Bournemouth in game week 2 looks really good. We know Salah is a high scoring player in general in FPL. He has been an FPL legend for years now. Definitely a reliable player that you can go for, and you know, you can afford him much better if you haven't got Erling Haaland. 25% of people currently have Salah in their team. It's actually not that much, so you can afford to go for the likes of Salah and have him as a bit of a differential in your team. 75% of your rivals are not going to have Salah in their teams, and you are going to have an advantage over them, and part of the way you're able to do that is by going without Erling Haaland. Now, that doesn't sound so bad when you put it that way, does it? Next up, Saka. So yeah, Saka, like I say, one of those captain options, particularly for game week 1. He's probably the one of the standout captain options for that game week. High ownership player at 50% owned as well, so you are going to be wanting to go for him to make sure you're not taking too many risks. The last thing you want is not only Erling Haaland destroying your rank, but also Saka destroying your rank. That would be an absolute disaster, but certainly this could go pretty well here with Saka over the first, like 7 game weeks. Arsenal have fantastic fixtures. We've got Bruno Fernandez in here next. You could also maybe upgrade him to Rashford if you can somehow manage to afford that, but I've got Fernandez in for now. I think he's still a pretty strong choice here. We've got some decent fixtures. Wolves, Nottingham Forest, and I don't mind that Tottenham game either against Spurs. We have seen Spurs in a friendly today actually concede 3 goals against West Ham. They're playing much more expansive football, and it seems like defensively they may struggle at the start of the season, so Fernandez could get some attacking contributions there. We've got Phil Foden here as well, so like I said, we do want to make sure we have some Man City players. Phil Foden to me looks like the second best Man City attacking option. Some of you guys might disagree with that, but with De Bruyne set to miss the start of the season with that injury, we've also got no Gundogan at the club anymore, we've got no Mahrez at the club. Foden can play a variety of different positions, and with all of the absentees at Man City in the midfield and wing positions at the moment, we do expect that Foden might actually get some game time. Foden does really well at the start of every season. He gets lots of game time at the beginning of every season, and he's very clear that he is a talented enough player that Pep Guardiola will be wanting to find a place for him in the starting 11. And look at these fixtures. You can even see, you can conceive of a world where Foden can score maybe nearly as many points as Erling Haaland. We did see Foden actually outscore Erling Haaland many times last season. His numbers are nowhere near the same, don't get me wrong, but they're close in the scheme of Man City players. You know, you could do a lot worse than Foden. It kind of goes in terms of, you know, expected points per 90 minutes. It is Erling Haaland, Alvarez, and then Foden. So as long as Foden and Alvarez get minutes, these players are definitely viable options. But Foden right now is the guy who is in this team. I would say Alvarez is another player you could potentially take a bit of a punt on, take a little bit of a risk on at the start of the season, whilst De Bruyne is out, and maybe you think Alvarez is going to play on the right wing potentially there as well. It's a position he's played before. That could be pretty decent as well. We're going to finish off the midfield with Gauru Mitoma against Luton at first, and then we've got Wolves and West Ham after that. We think he's going to turn the Luton defence in absolute knots, as he does with his dribbling skills. Will he have the end product to finish the day? I'm not sure. Let's see. I think he definitely could. He's an improving player, but at that 38% ownership, again, another player you probably don't want to bet against. Now, going up front, we have got Harry Kane. Now, this is a player who not a lot of people have got at all. He is a differential, and I know 15% ownership doesn't seem like much of a differential, but believe me, it really is. We are talking about 85%, 84, 85% of all of your rivals in FPL will be going without Harry Kane, and that is because Erling Haaland is blocking them from getting this player. It's pretty much a case of, we've got Erling Haaland 85% owned, Kane 15% owned. So it does seem like people are going for one or the other pretty much, and therefore you've got a team here with Salah and Kane. Both of their combined ownerships is just 41, 42%. It's not very much at all. So we've got some super differential situations here. Hardly anyone in the entirety of the game are going to have both of these players. And think how good these players. Kane only only scored a few less points than Erling Haaland last season. Salah, you expect he can get back to that level as well, potentially as well. So I do genuinely think that Salah and Kane, particularly when combined, are not only something really different that no one else is going for, but these are players who genuinely do have the talent, maybe not to match Erling Haaland, but to get close to him. And if you've got the two players getting close to him, then maybe that is going to be enough to bridge the gap between a non-Erling Haaland team and a Erling Haaland team. We're going to finish off the strike force with Gabriel Jesus, another really popular player who in the game that you probably don't want to bet against. So we're going to put him in the team as well. Really good fixtures for Arsenal. We're expecting him to lead the line, central striker, maybe score a couple of goals as well. Started off last season really well, so maybe he could do the same again here. So we're sticking him in the team. On the bench, we've got Areola as usual. We've got Bulldog and Archer as usual. These are your kind of classic minimum price kind of players that are really good for your bench. But we have also got Pau Torres of Aston Villa. This is Aston Villa's new centre-back kind of signing. Really good player. Really like the look of him. He's going to be really good for Aston Villa, to be fair. And he rotates so well with Crystal Palace defenders. If you just have Anderson and Pau Torres and just switch them every game week, depending on who has the better fixture, you can go pretty much the first half of the season and only play at a big six team once during that time. That is absolutely insane. You can pretty much get relegation threatened teams every single game week if you rotate these two defenders, and that's something that not a lot of people have picked up on this rotation between these two players. So actually really like it. Could work out really well. And you have got Bulldog there as well if you want to go that way. Sheffield United have some decent-ish fixtures here and there, so maybe you can play Bulldog occasionally as well. But certainly the Crystal Palace Aston Villa partnership, you can go for Matty Cash instead if you prefer, or Tyrone Mings maybe. Depends kind of what you want. Moreno if you can afford him, and I keep making that switch. Works really well. We're going to put the captain's armband on like we suggested. We're going to put it on Saka. I'm going to put a vice captain on Bruno Fernandez as well, because I feel like that Wolves game is pretty tasty compared to Chelsea's. Chelsea has, we've got Salah, we've got Kane against Brentford as well. But overall, you look at this team, yes, it is missing that one key ingredient, but aside from that, it is a really strong team with a Salah and Kane combo, which is something we are not seeing at all. Nobody is doing this. No one is able to do this. And you can do that by going without Erling Haaland. I'm not saying I recommend this. I'm just saying it is possible. This is something that's possible. And we've got some further proof to add to that. And I'm going to show you the team rating on Fantasy Football Hub to see what the AI actually thinks of this team. Now, I think this is the moment where we surprise you, because this team, I've just entered it in now for you guys, it's got a team rating of 92%. That is good. When we've kind of looked at other, top FPL content creators teams, a lot of them are around 92%. One of my recent teams that I made, one of my recent drafts, that was 92% rated. And what this rating is, it basically takes into account the players that you have, their predicted points in any given game, how well the captain's going to do, everything like that, and it kind of rates the team of how many points that it thinks this team is going to score. And I said before, if your team is rated 90% or more, it is probably a very viable, very strong team. And we've managed to hit that. We've managed to do that with a team without Erling Haaland, which I imagine not a lot of you guys thought was even possible. Well, it is possible. It is possible to get what the AI, what machine learning, what predicted points considers to be a genuinely strong team, a team that can genuinely compete with the top, even without the likes of Erling Haaland. So we can say as much as we like, Erling Haaland, I just cannot manage to go without him, and I definitely understand that point of view. But believe me, we look at this and the AI gets it right a lot of the time, particularly on average when you average it out throughout the season. And we are talking about a 6, 7, 8 game week period here that would be using a team similar to this for. The predicted points are high. The team rating is high. We have got the combination of Salah and Kane. It actually looks like they can compete with Erling Haaland, and that is what we need to do. That's what we're going to try and do, and this is a potential differential that we can do. All we've got to do is cover Erling Haaland's points. That's all we've got to do. We've got to cover his points. We don't need to, have that captaincy option that's the same player every week. We've got different players that can maybe cover you at different times. I mean, we can go through some of these game weeks here. If I switch to game week 2, for example, we switch it about. I've actually got Matty Cash in here at the moment. We can have Pau Torres or Cash, but I put Cash in for the moment. So yeah, in game week 2, you go Cash against Everton. Game week 3, we would have Cash against Burnley. Then we can switch it back again, and we'll have Anderson here against Wolves for game week 4. And we're also switching the captain each game week as well. So Harry Kane here. Something interesting that I've also found out is that it actually seems like Bruno Fernandez has the highest predicted points for game week 1. But maybe you guys can check that out yourselves on the predicted points tool. Like I said, I've linked that in the description. And I'll also link this My Team tool as well, where you guys can check out your team's rating to see, actually, is your team higher or lower rated than this 92% rated team? If you've got Erling Haaland in your team and your team rating is actually below 92%, it could be that this no Haaland team is actually better than your team. Can we imagine? Can we imagine such a situation? I'm not going to deal in absolutes, guys. It's definitely down to opinion, and you guys can really do whatever you feel is best for your team. But what I wanted to explore today is whether it is viable to have a FPL team for game week 1 that doesn't include the Norwegian beast robot man. And actually, I feel like I have kind of discovered in the journey of making this video, kind of think, yes, it's a huge risk. Don't get me wrong. And you may find yourself hiding behind sofas whenever Man City play. But I think it's viable. Will I do it myself? I don't know about that one, guys. But hey, if one of you guys wants to try it, let's see. I would love to hear some of your opinions on this video, on this whole idea. Is it possible to go without Haaland? I don't know. Let me know, guys. Thanks so much for watching. If you did enjoy this one, please do drop a like. Do subscribe if you are new around here as well. Even if you don't agree with the idea that going without Haaland is viable, look, I'm probably going to go with Erling Haaland in my team. I'm like 99% sure about that. But I thought this was an interesting discussion. And if you are into these kind of interesting discussions, different points of views coming all together to kind of give a balanced view of FPL, then hopefully this video has worked for you in that way at the very least. Do make sure you're following me on TikTok and Instagram, because I have actually started uploading some short form videos. If you want just your little snippet, short little baby videos in FPL Mate style, then we're going to have some over there as well. So make sure you go check that out. But aside from that, guys, thank you so much for watching once again, and I will see you later, mates. Bye-bye.